you hear me, please? Confirm. Thank you, ma'am. Um, all right, ma'am. Got that, ma'am. Possible implications of gender-neutral laws in India. Fine. Gender-neutral laws in India. Firstly, we'll have to think that why this thing comes in the mind, the gender-neutral law, I think. It comes in mind because for a long time we have men. All men are made equal. That's French Revolution, American Constitution, or when it comes to fraternity, French Revolution, American Revolution, fraternity. That's how we are going to start into implications of gender neutral law in India. Implications of gender neutral law in India. In अच्छा जेंडर न्यूट्रल लॉ इन इंडिया अगर हम देखते हैं तो हमारा एक पूरा अप्रोच बदल जाता है जो हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं लाने की ना वो लेकिन कुछ जगह पे जेंडर स्पेसिफिक होना पड़ेगा possible implications of gender neutral laws in India. Possible implications of gender neutral laws in India. Possible implications. Gender neutral laws. Hello, ma'am. Am I audible? Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, I'll start at the count of 3, 2, 1, ma'am. 3, 2, 1. My heartfelt greetings to the honorable jury and all the other OC members present over here. So the topic we have got is the possible implications of gender neutral laws in India. Let's begin with the topic itself. Gender neutral laws. Why we have to really think about this thing like gender neutral laws? The reason is that for the long time, very sadly and unfortunately, lawmaking, knowledge, information, education, studies, politics, and anything and everything that we can imagine about has been the domain of men. Some scholars like Virginia Woolf think that women are ill placed in a world which is absolutely for men. When we think about French Revolution, to which we largely credit the generation of the great ideas of democracy, equality, fraternity, etc., we see there that the charter that they prepared out of this revolution had these notions like all men are equal, every man can have access to property, etc. Everything that was written over there was from a man's perspective because men were preparing the document. American Constitution says all men are equal. The Indian Constitution, preamble, and the world in large talks about fraternity. Is it always about brotherhood? Cannot there be sisterhood? So the thing is that for the long time, because men have been in the position of powers, it had its reflection in the laws that were being made. Not necessarily intentional, but unintentionally it has been there. There are many things, if I'll go on mentioning them, then the list goes long and we can discuss it on some other time. So now what will happen with the gender neutral laws? We are constantly, persistently emphasizing upon it that how men and women are equal. There are different studies and different analysis that have already proved it, that men and women in their capacities, in their potential to change the world are equal. And on the same note, men and women, when they are committing errors, then also they are equal. So the thing here is to look upon an individual as an individual, irrespective of whether it's a man or a woman. When we think about bringing gender neutral laws in India, it is about re-strengthening the idea of right to equality in the truest sense possible. It is about moving towards that idea wherein there is what we call the rule of law or equality before law, that for law there is no such distinction based on gender. And when we are talking about gender neutral laws, a very important dimension that has to be included is that this is not just an issue of debate for man and woman, but it is also about transgenders. Unfortunately, when we fill different forms and different platforms of government itself, who in this world where welfare state is gradually being strengthened with every passing day, there are forms of government itself where there are just two options for gender, man and woman, and there is no such option for transgender. So when we are making gender neutral laws, what happens is right from the onset, the lawmaker is instilled with this thought of rule of law, equality before law, that gender has no role to play. It is, and gender has no role to play in every dimension of that particular topic, that particular substance over which law is being made. This will lead us towards making India more inclusive. And as I have always been of this belief that the changes are brought through two ways, external and internal. Internal changes will always take time. But does that mean that we should not start with the external change just because the internal changes won't come very radically or very rapidly? No, we should start with the external change, because external change is the first step towards that internal change. Now just imagine when these laws will get neutral, gender neutral, the very view of every stakeholder who is involved within it will be, will he or she will be bound to free himself or herself from that bias which very naturally emerges. We know how our society has largely been patriarchal. As I mentioned this, I'm reminded of the, if I'm able to recall it right, then it's Human Development Index. Japan, which is the most developed country of Asia, which stands parallel to the developed countries or the global north of the world, it performs uh, well on various indicators. But when it comes to the representation of women in different dimensions, then there is a problem. So, and particularly it comes in the political domain, presentation of women in the in the parliament and in these legislative bodies. Though Japan has been able to develop very good infrastructure with regards to health and education, but when it comes to this parliament kind of thing, or the presentation of women in parliament, there this problem exists. What I want to highlight through this case study is that this is the way the grooming has been done, the social conditioning has been done. There is lack of acceptance for women in the position of power, and when women are not in the position of power, this contributes to lack of those communities who are already having lesser voice, and now they are not getting the chance to be represented. And same applies to the transgenders as well. These are the deprived, disadvantaged sections. So if we want that their issues, their ideas be represented, we need them in these legislative making bodies, and they will contribute. They will, like, this can be put forward as a suggestion that they can help us making these gender neutral laws. So the broad idea, if I move towards the conclusion, is this: that when we have the gender neutral laws, it somewhere very strongly hits that notion which has prevailed throughout the world through all the times till now, that the biological differences have too great a role to play. No, they don't have. They have a limited role to play. So gender neutral laws in India will be an acceptance of this approach of ours, where we deem everyone equal, the very ethos of Indianness, that looks everyone as equal. That acceptance would come from these gender neutral laws. So this is going to be a very positive and also a revolutionary step. And then what happens, because law has the impact in every dimension of life of a society or a nation as a whole. So when we begin with the gender neutral laws, the other things that exist in the society, the people have a very stronger sense that now they have to be gender neutral, because a broader perspective of the society is reflected through the way it is legislating. With these words, thank you. Yes, sir. Audible. Sir, will you? Sir, over this I would say that it's hard to say it very clearly that it is male, like in one word, that it is male inclined or it is female inclined. It depends on which vantage point we stand. If we stand from this vantage point, that in general, what is, how the laws are there. So there is generally this thing that it is deemed like a man is doing this, a man is doing that. If he does this, he's free from this. If he's not doing this, all those provisions. But sometimes we see the laws which were brought for the protection of women are being misused. So at that time, it seems that laws, though they were not intended to favor or disfavor anyone, but because their implementation have faced challenges, it seems that law has got inclined towards a woman. Because like we see in case of dowry cases or even the rape cases, there are false allegations that are being made. So at that level, at a secondary level, it seems that these laws are going against women. But in general, sir, this thing prevails because those who are making law are, at the end, they are shaped by the society and are mostly men. So this notion somewhere gets neglected, and when women also participate, sometimes transgender notion gets rejected because these sections already have lesser voice. So very clearly, it can't be said, sir, कि male, whether it's male oriented or female oriented, depends on the case. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So with regards to same-sex marriage, sir, I welcome it as a progressive move. And I think that same sex marriage should be legalized. If it will be legalized, it doesn't mean that very immediately we will be able to attain that objective of equality for the transgenders or LGBTQIA plus community in general, or securing the very rights that they deserve just by being a human. It will take time because society has to develop an acceptance. But it is important because once, just like after Navteej Singh Johar case, this consciousness arose that there exists a section called transgenders, and we cannot just ignore their rights and their all that they deserve as a human beings. So when we move one step further and go for same-sex marriage, I guess it will be a further stronger recognition of their rights, their right to live a life which they deserve, and it's no one's fault of how nature has created them. So I think it will just strengthen us as a society and as a world which is safe for everyone, which is concerned for everyone's welfare. I think it should come. Yes, sir. So I think that laws should be given priority, but we will have to be sensitive towards the custom because for very long period people are attached to it. So if we ask them to change their view, their thought point, their belief system overnight, they won't be ready. But if we sensitively address them and expose them to the enlightened ideas, if we encourage them to have a logical reasoning for why it is being prohibited by the religion, or whether those texts or whatever are their sources of reference, are they really the genuine and authentic ones, or just the religious leaders have manipulated it for certain concerns? If we approach those people who favor religion over these laws with that point of view, so I think the very religiously stringent people would also be convinced, and they will be welcoming the law, and that would be a commendable move because then there won't be any opposition left, and society. Mhm. No. Sir, I didn't mean that if religion is preventing anything, that it is, then it is obviously illogical. I said that we will be approaching them and trying to convince them what is logical. Like, sir, what happened in some religions? Certain practices were developed depending upon the place where these religions originated, or the particular conditions of that time when the religion originated. So time has passed by, but people are somewhere left behind because they were following those practices for long. So when we'll convince them with regards to the present time, I think they will be convinced that the logicness of that thing doesn't hold true now. It held true in the time when it was made. And I think that every religion permits the scope of change to the extent it is for the betterment of the people and the society at large. So I think if I would say, if we will go for this view that there should be anything in the absolute sense, this won't work. There are certain specific situations which may demand a law to be not so gender neutral. So that will depend on the particular case. We cannot say that every law has to be gender neutral if any particular situation, any particular crime demands it to be not to be gender neutral. So for what? So may I have few seconds to think? So the thought that immediately strikes my mind is with regards to the maternity benefits. We have already have many maternity benefits, but in if with regards to maternity benefits, if women are given more priority as compared to men, I think it would be justified. Like we are recently talking about the menstrual leaves. Okay, okay, sir. Sorry, I could not get that. It was in particular context of religion. Um, Yeah, yes. So, sorry, I couldn't relate that it's with regards to religion where women can be given priority. Yes, sir. It may happen. It may happen. Like, it's particularly with regards to Hinduism, which I'm able to recall right now, that we see that in certain places women are not allowed to enter the places of worship. Or similarly, there are certain places where men are not allowed. Only women can enter and they do the worship. So this, when I read and researched about it, I realized that this is not just about any custom or any blind faith. There is a whole science involved in the way the idols are set up and their worship is done, and it has an impact on the biological health of a man if he's not allowed to enter, or a woman if she's not allowed to enter. So if any certain law is made to restrict people from going to any particular place of worship, just for example, because it is having some scientific reason for their ill health, then I think it's fine. The main idea should be whether we have the scientific and logical ground of prioritizing one gender over the other. As far as this benchmark is met, I feel it's justified. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I think the second way is more appropriate, that we include all the genders and make the law gender neutral. So when I am saying this, what's my perception of it is, like we can have a uniform law about how things are to happen, but then there can be certain exceptions depending upon a particular situation where the law with regards to women, with regards to man, with regards to transgender, it may be changed a bit, because we cannot target radical uniformity. It has to be an accommodative way. So I think this would be better. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, judges. Thank you, ma'am.